But first we're going to have a little earthquake. There you go.
Pretty good?
I think so.
All right. So all of us, a couple of you, so you all know how tight security's been getting with most people. There's an argument going on that whether TSA pat-downs are infringing on our rights and privacy or if they're not. My claim is that the TSA pat-downs and full-body X-ray scans violate our rights and privacy. I'm going to prove this to you by comparing this to the Fourth Amendment. I'm not sure if any of you know what that is. I usually forgot it because I wasn't too good in history. But I'm going to read that to you. I'm going to give you some examples of some polls that were taken that some people had done for the polls that stated whether or not they felt uncomfortable or if they felt it was necessary. And I'm also going to give you some examples of people who were extremely violated by these pat-downs. All right, so the Fourth Amendment says, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. All these TSA pat-downs violate that right. There are no warrants given to each individual person to be searched, and there are very in-depth searches, and therefore they should not be acceptable without the person's consent. If we don't give consent to them to search us, they shouldn't be allowed to search us. Secondly, the polls that were given, one was by the ABC News and Washington Post poll. It said that 50% of pat-downs went too far. That's what the people said. And the Gallup USA Today Post poll said that 57% of the people were bothered by the enhanced pat-downs. Even the pilots union president, Mike Cleary, so these are the pilots, these aren't the passengers. The pilots union said that the TSA procedures are blatantly unacceptable as a long-term solution. This situation has already produced a sexual molestation in alarmingly short order. The eyewash being dribbled by the TSA in this instance is embarrassingly devoid of a common sense, and we will not stand for it. All right, now I have three examples of three different people who were overly violated by the TSA pat-downs. First example is of an 8-year-old boy at Salt Lake City International Airport who was a little shy. Little boys are normally shy. And when the agent went to go search him, he resisted. So they made him take off his shirt so they could search most of the rest of him. Second example is of a bladder cancer survivor who had to carry a urostomy bag. I don't know if any of you know what that is. It's a little bag that these patients have to carry around that has a tube that goes into their stomach that pretty much collects their urine for them because they're unable to let it out normally. So he was at the Detroit International Airport, and when the TSA agents came up to approach him to search him, he said, be careful of this bag. If you touch it, there's a very great chance that you will break the bag and it will leak everywhere. And the TSA agents, they didn't pay any attention to his medical condition, and they broke his bag in public, so he was covered in his urine, like the rest of the flight, unless he had to change his clothes. The final example I have is of a girl by the name of Meg McLean who refused the full-body X-ray scan, and she asked questions about the pat-down. And in response to this, she was handcuffed, her ticket was ripped up, and she was thrown out of the airport. Now, all those examples I've given are violations of our right. They shouldn't be allowed to search us without our consent. Some may say it's safety, but it's getting a little bit too far. Now, that's my claim is that these rights, or these pat-downs are a violation of our rights, and they shouldn't be done without our consent.
Okay, well, it takes you a while, but the proposition is identified. The material in the preview is not really a set of claims, it's the structure of the speech, but they're not always inferences that you're drawing, especially on that third point where you're just going to tell us what the examples are. You know, and the evidence of the examples I think is fine, but what inference do you want us to draw from those examples? That's really what your claim ought to be on that particular point. On the first point on whether or not it violates the Fourth Amendment, the only evidence that you have here is basically a quote of the Fourth Amendment. And I'm not exactly sure, you know, the Fourth Amendment deals with law enforcement issues when information is being seized for the purpose of using it in court. I'm not exactly sure that it falls into the same category for allowing people onto a plane. If what you were saying was true, I would imagine that there would be dozens, if not hundreds, of lawsuits already about this issue, and I don't have any legal expert interpreting the information the same way you're doing so. I don't have any examples of court cases that are pursuing this. We don't have any judicial rulings on this, so I think you're asking us to take this on your say-so without giving us reason to believe that you are an authority on these legal proceedings, so I think that's a little bit problematic. The notion that there are some of these cases that go too far and are unnecessary, I think that you've got some good examples on this. What we need is some way of being able to generalize from those examples, and I think that's the kind of evidence that's missing on those other points. I think you do a pretty good job presenting to the audience. The material is organized, like I said, but it's not necessarily organized as a sequence of claims, and I think that's a little bit problematic. All right, thank you.